Good afternoon, everybody. So let's define an insolvency practitioner's role in recovery. So these are the objectives and outcomes for this presentation for CPD purposes. I think the CPD guy's gone now, so I'm off the hook. I can't cover all this in 10 minutes and give you all these skills, but we'll do the best we can. So how can insolvency practitioners help your corporate clients? Today, I'm going to summarise some of the insolvency tools that IPs utilise to enable a business to either survive or fail with dignity. But firstly, to become an IP, you need to pass the Joint Insolvency Examination Board exams. And Tom and I, as studied buddies back in 2005, miraculously passed these exams first time round. God knows how, but we did. No, we're not like that. We don't do that. And then shortly thereafter, we took the leap of faith and we launched the firm. So we know, because we've done it ourselves, that entrepreneurs are really brave. And they all enter into business with hope and optimism. Well, that's how it felt all those years ago anyway. But it's how entrepreneurs deal with crisis and failure that will stand them out from the crowd. There are many reasons for seeking professional advice from an IP, and personally I remain passionate and intrigued about my role helping entrepreneurs navigate distress and crisis in their businesses, as these are no two consultations are ever the same, and I've got no doubt that similar thoughts are with you guys, because all your clients are unique in personality and the nature of the businesses they own. So, what are some of the typical warning signs that would indicate it worthy to introduce a client for a formal consultation with BABR? Do you have clients that have got an increase, suffered bad debts or delayed payments? They've got difficulty paying bills or suppliers? Are they suffering a decrease in sales or revenue? Have they built up tax arrears? Have they got increased debts? Or they've got difficulty sourcing loans or threats of legal action? Advice from BABR is essential for any clients suffering one or a combination of the warning signs detailed on this slide. And there's certainly one thing for sure: early action is essential, as whilst it is impossible to act too early, it is easy to leave it too late, and we've seen so many people come in too late and their options have been very limited. Right, so unfortunately I haven't got time to make reference to discuss compulsory liquidations, receiverships, solvent liquidations and the new Corporate Insolvency and Governance Act 2020 legislation. That's a new moratorium for restructuring mainly larger businesses. So let's find out what I can address. So this slide here, this details the various stages that a client's business may experience on its journey. Accountants, assisted by the likes of Steve Broom, deal with clients in the growth and underperforming stages. But IPs spend their time in stages 3 and 4. So let's spend some time initially in the distress stage, where an underperforming business can slip into the zone of insolvency, but is not yet in crisis. At this stage, it's far from certain that a business is bound to fail or enter into an insolvency process. If directors haven't yet acted to resolve potential problems, this is the time to do so. So let's start with a common theme for your clients: an inability for them to pay their crown taxes on time for a period. What's achievable? A time to pay arrangement is informal in nature and can cover specific or all outstanding government taxes overdue, including penalties and interest. And whilst we're happy to assist with time to pays, accountants in the main feel best placed to submit and negotiate a payment plan on behalf of their clients to HMRC to pay the debt in instalments over a fixed period, whilst also paying future taxes as they fall due. HMRC will need to be convinced that the time to pay is achievable, however. Otherwise, they will ask the client to pay the amount it owes in full, at which point a more formal arrangement is necessary and our input should be sought. So Where we have a business with cash flow issues, but the future appears positive and the business viable, then the alternative to time to pay is a company voluntary arrangement, which we've abbreviated as CVA. A CVA allows a company to enter into an arrangement with its unsecured creditors to repay its debts or a percentage of them. As IPs, we help the company draft its proposal and make sure creditors receive all the information to decide whether they want to approve the proposal at the CVA, at a formal meeting of the creditors. If in excess of 3/4 in value vote in favour, the proposals are accepted and they're binding on all creditors, and the IP is then responsible for making sure the agreed terms are met. A CVA is a rescue procedure. It normally enables the business to continue to trade and it saves jobs. Rejection of the CVA by creditors normally leads to closure of the business and either an administration or a liquidation. And this leads me on to the next tool in our armoury, administration. Administration is also a formal insolvency process, and that allows the insolvency practitioner to try and rescue the business or sell its assets for as much as possible to repay those to creditors. An administration order creates a moratorium to give space, to give time to find a buyer on a going concern basis, and that also saves jobs in the process. A pre-pack administration is an arrangement under which the sale of all or part of the company's business and assets is negotiated with a purchaser before the administrator is formally appointed. Soon after appointment, the administrator will complete the sale and explain to creditors why the pre-pack was appropriate. A business that ignores signs of distress will eventually hit crisis point. The business may get into extreme difficulties due to lack of liquidity, making it impossible to meet overheads, pay staff, taxes, or bank loans. Without cash, it's fair to say that the business will seize up, stagnate, and eventually die. There is a formal process for businesses in terminal decline, and that's called a creditor's voluntary liquidation, abbreviated as CVL. In liquidations, assets are collected and sold by the IP, and the proceeds after costs used to pay creditors in a specific order. Liquidators and indeed administrators also have a duty to independently investigate the demise of the company and provide evidence of unfit conduct to a government department that considers potential disqualification of directors. On many occasions, connected parties may also have acquired the assets from the directors, hopefully on an arm's length basis, and the proceeds are then used to fund the CVL. This is sometimes known as a pre-pack CVL, and the liquidator has a duty to sense check that the sale by the directors was in good order and at arm's length. So, given our qualifications, experience in business, Tom, myself, our fellow in-house insolvency practitioners Matt Reeds and Kieran Keegan are well placed to help your clients in distress or crisis. With our help and the ambition of the directors, with Steve's help from a commercial finance perspective, a new or existing business can be placed on a sounder footing and moved into the stabilisation and recovery stages. And that enables savvy accountants to keep their clients. Business is about risk. It's not guaranteed, but with the right help, we can all learn from failure, become more resolute and experienced to avoid potential hurdles in the future. So, before we finish, I just wanted to check that you're aware that BABR provide a free, no obligation, introductory and confidential consultation to prospective clients. So what have they got to lose? We believe in transparency and we wish to help directors reduce or remove potential liability. If directors have done wrong, we'll help them mitigate by doing the right thing in the circumstances. So, what are we currently seeing? Certainly post-pandemic, an increase in CVLs, since the end of furlough. With a recession looming for UK PLC and inflation and interest rates high, I can only see a further increase in business failures over the coming months and next couple of years or so. We're also seeing a number of businesses that have failed with unpaid bounce back loans. The majority tick all the investigation boxes, but there have been cases of personal liability for directors where they've sought more than one bounce back loan, or they've lied about the company's turnover to gain a larger loan than the company was entitled to. We're also seeing claims against directors who spent bounce back loans on themselves rather than on business expenses. Naturally, given the uplift in insolvencies, we're seeing more director disqualifications, and those now include those for the misuse of COVID loans and grants. And finally, we're seeing more overdrawn director loan accounts, which of course are an asset in an insolvency. That requires us to use our skill set to work out what is affordable for the director. We either write down in full or partially, settle a loan account in full and final settlement, or if it's affordable, we'll enforce and demand that the director repays the loan in full. I hope you found this very short presentation informative, and I thank you for attending and helping us raise money for Magpie Dance. There's going to be some branded BABR footballs for you to take away. Hope you enjoy those, and I'd love to buy you a drink in Broomfields afterwards.